mystery lights in places of paranormal pilgrimage in Canada and in Italy. Mysterious lights are a feature in many accounts of the paranormal, religious experiences, and folklore. They appear in various traditions, cultures, history, and across the globe. Anomalous lights are described as tiny to gigantic in every color and shape and can last from a few seconds to hours in duration. I have personally,
Hey, Susan.
Yeah.
Just hang on one sec. So what we see literally is just your PowerPoint file on our screen. So we do see the slides, but for some reason we're not seeing the slideshow you're seeing.
Oh.
I think what you can do is just hit escape.
Okay.
And then you'll see what we see, which is just your presentation, right? With the little thumbnails. So just click on the thumbnail that you want to show, for the slide you want to show, and just scroll through that way, and then we'll all see the same thing.
Okay, so like that, because I'm like when I do on the slideshow, like, okay, so I'm not sure what you're meaning here. I'm back to the out of the slideshow. I'm on view.
Yeah, so, just literally, you know, the little thumbnails you see in your left-hand column there.
Yeah.
Just click through them and we'll see exactly the same thing, because that's what we're seeing. We're just seeing your PowerPoint with the thumbnails on the left-hand column.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't know why it's not showing us the slideshow, but that'll work too. That'll work too.
That is so weird.
I know.
Okay, that is, I don't know. There's the little gremlins here today that are just.
There are.
Yeah, I just don't know why it's doing that. So when I'm going through the slides, you're not seeing what I'm seeing.
No, so but now we see what you see because your mouse is hovering over the fourth slide, and you can just click on it and go ahead and do your presentation, and we'll see that.
Okay. Oh, well, that sucks, but okay. All right. So where am I? So I have personally encountered mysterious light forms in more than one setting, and I'm certain some of you may have as well. And if you have too, I'd love to hear about it. Scholars of different disciplines have debated what these lights might be. Science has attempted to study them, and in some cases, we know that they are made up of plasma, but their nature still remains very much a mystery. Unresolved questions such as, what are these lights? What is their source? Why do they appear in certain places? Are they intelligently piloted? Can you think of others? They are still left up to debate. When I began my investigations into mystery lights, these types of questions were foremost in my mind, and they are still important. But my own research interests are more oriented now towards the question, how do these encounters affect the witnesses? Mysterious light forms can appear anywhere, but there are places around the world where they are witnessed regularly and with some frequency. In these places, I like to think of the mystery lights as beacons of numinous experience. The lights appear to serve as an invitation to visit these places and as an initiation of what can become very profound and life-changing to the people who experience them. Let's see. Where am I here? Okay, so I'm going to show you a couple of examples of the lights. These are from slides that my husband put together for some of his own research. This is the Tagish Lake lights in Canada. What you're seeing is a mountain and the mystery lights around them. This mountain, I believe, is a volcano. And these pictures came to us from Martin Jasic, who is of UFO BC. So here's some other ones. These ones are from Argentina. Again, they're various, I think they come from various people that are looking at these spook lights. And I'm not really sure what you're seeing in these pictures, but these are images of lights and strange light forms that people obviously believe are anomalous in nature. Or at least we don't know what the explanation for them are. Let's see here. These are from the Brown Mountains. There is an observatory there that is looking at these lights, run by Daniel Bruce Catton. And he's taken a number of lights which he feels are mysterious in nature. These are the Joplin Hornet lights. Again, a lot of these lights are very similar, and as I will explain later, a lot of them have the same sort of folklore and legends and myths that surround them. These are from the Pajubachu Forest in Cluj-Napoca. I'm probably mispronouncing this, in Romania. Very famous haunted forest where there's all sorts of light phenomena that are occurring. Now, I'm very fortunate as an investigator of mysteries to live in an area of Italy where these lights appear frequently. And it's relatively easy to visit these sites, at least for me. There is a long, rich history and mythos surrounding these places, and I'll talk about some of them in this presentation, and a special location in Canada where I originally encountered mysterious light forms and where I conducted my first on-site investigation. The photo beside you is of a mysterious light form from Scugog Island. Here's the Ghost Road. Whoop. Sorry about that, guys. I'm used to doing this as a slideshow. On my end, it actually works, but this is an image I've taken of a mysterious light form on an area known as the Ghost Road. Scugog Island is located in Ontario, Canada, and it's not really an island at all, but it's a small peninsula. There is a lonely stretch of road on this island that is named the Mississaugas Trail after the Indigenous people who live in the area, and they operate a casino not too far away. But it is more infamously known by the locals and by paranormal enthusiasts and ghost hunters as the Ghost Road of Scugog Island. For decades, and possibly much longer, people have been reporting strange and inexplicable phenomena occurring on the Ghost Road. The most common of this is a mysterious white light thought to be a headlamp of a motorcycle, according to legends, and a similar smaller red light, presumably the red lamp of the rear lamp of the motorcycle. Other anomalous phenomena, including the sighting of apparitions, cars being pulled forward and backwards, electrical anomalies, batteries draining, and cameras malfunctioning, UFOs, strange sounds, and other assorted odd occurrences, including a lake monster in the nearby man-made lake. I kid you not, it's like a mini Loch Ness monster, what they're reporting, although this lake is definitely man-made. So it's a really weird place. So I first learned about the Ghost Road through some friends in the late 1990s. My friend Crystal had relatives that lived in the area, and she told us the stories and legends about the place. And they go something like this. In the 1950s, a young man by the name of Dan Sweeney, or sometimes Dave Sweeney, was driving a motorcycle at an excessive speed on the Mississaugas Trail. He lost control and was thrown into a field. Tragically, poor Dan was killed when his head hit a large rock, which is still situated at the crossroads of the Ghost Road. Since the time of the accident, people have seen the phantom lights, which cross the field, then turn left down the road, where it vanishes into the night. It seems Dan is doomed to relive that last ride each night on what became the Ghost Road. At least that's how one story goes. Variations include a motorcyclist killed while fleeing the father of his girlfriend, and that it was a snowmobile instead of a motorcycle. And what you're seeing to the side here is the actual location at the crossroads with the rock where the motorcyclist supposedly died. And this is a actual Harley of a ghost hunter that went up there to go check out the lights. So it's a nice staged photo there. The location is about an hour's drive from where I was living at the time. So along with two friends, we decided to drive up there and see what was going on for ourselves. Little did we know at that time that this first foray going up there would lead to a 15-month investigation of this location. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a brief history of the area. In 1827, the town of Lindsay was founded by a William Purdy. It was originally known as Purdy Mills. Purdy built the first dam in the winter of 1827 to power his grist mill, and the dam was 10 feet high and located on the Scugog River at Lindsay. The dam flooded the area near Port Perry, producing a lake. This was the man-made lake, and Scugog Island was created. The flag that you see below is actually the flag of the Mississaugas of the Scugog Island First Nation, who still have a reservation up there, and they have a casino. So they're still very much part of that land. Previous to the formation of the lake and island, the area was inhabited by farmers and traditionally belonged to the Mississaugas First Nation. The area is the location of an ancient native trade route. So there was a route that led between this area and Lake Ontario, where people were not necessarily making religious pilgrimage, although they might have been, but they were using it as a route to make trade. And that led down to Lake Ontario. Many historical artifacts, including Indigenous human remains, have been unearthed in this area. In more recent history, the burial of a native chieftain was unearthed. Whoops. Sorry, guys. Like I said, I'm not used to looking at this. Okay. I just got to move something out of here. That better, I think. Okay. In more recent history, the burial of a native chieftain was unearthed, and that was dated to several thousand years old. And in a tragic twist, the skeleton of a man who had been murdered in a drug deal that had gone wrong in a different location was found in the woods beside the ghost road. This was at some point in the 1980s, and I actually found that out in a newspaper account of what happened. A local man found the remains and thought it was a Halloween decoration that had been used by local teens who would head up to the location on Halloween night to party and do whatever teens do when parking in their cars in spooky locations. So that was a rather horrifying find. And of course, added to the mystique and the spookiness of that ghost road. Here is another picture of it taken at night. The location itself is not very remote by Canadian standards, but it is surrounded by a lot of forest and farm fields. So it's isolated, and that really adds to the sort of chilling factor associated with being out on the ghost road. So it was a snowy April night in 1999 when we found ourselves sitting in our car completely alone up on the ghost road. It's April, you still get a lot of snow potentially in Ontario, and it was snowing, and the visibility on the road wasn't very good. We were dressed in our parkas, and we had our Timmy's coffee in hand, which is a kind of Canadian thing. You have your Tim's coffee and your parka, you're good to go. And we watched as a series of 3 balls of light began to flashing in a sequence just at the height of the treetops. I remember being completely thrilled and frightened and thinking, this is really neat and wonderful all at the same time. It was very odd, and we could find no source for these lights. And like I said, the visibility was very poor, but the lights were very, very clear for us to see them. And they were just blinking in a sequence, like in a circular pattern, just above the treetops. So very, very eerie. And it was the first and only time that we saw the ghost lights display like that. Despite we went up, I don't know how many times over 15 months, but it was the only time that we saw them looking like that. So after we saw those lights, we were determined we're going to solve this mystery. We began to go up to Scugog Island regularly, but it took us a few times before we were brave enough to actually leave our car. Okay, such were the spooky vibes that you get from being in an isolated place like that. When we went to the local historical group, and we heard a different legend. The story told of an unsolved murder involving a farmer. The mystery lights in the version were attributed to the spirit of the deceased individual and his lantern. Now, this ghost story is very similar to other legends surrounding other mystery light locations, but in this case, we were able to find some basis in historical fact. A farmer was reportedly murdered, his death attributed to gunshot wounds in 1838 on Scugog Island, so very close to where this mystery light was appearing. And we found a diary entry from the early 20th century that spoke of devil's lights in the vicinity of what became known as the Ghost Road. And this was really exciting for us. And I remember at the time, going through diaries from the 18th century, 19th century can be rather boring, because especially when you have farm folk, they're noting their day-to-day lives and what they had for breakfast. But occasionally you find a little gem. And in this case, the mention of devil's lights sort of further added to the idea of this is something really going on here, something really mysterious. Over the course of those 15 months, we had several strange experiences. And one of the most unnerving being when we had just set up our equipment. So we had spotting scopes and cameras because we were determined to get good pictures of the light. And we heard what sounded like rain hitting the car. Now, this was a clear night that we had been up there. And I can only describe it like it sounded at first like rain, like little patter, patter, patter on the car, but there was no rain that we could see. But it began to intensify. The sky did not look cloudy, but we quickly put the equipment back in just as we heard these sounds intensifying, because we didn't want to get the equipment, wrecked or wet or anything. And it began to intensify and sound like rocks or almost like hail hitting the car. So we sat in the car, and this went on for about a minute, or at least it felt like a minute. It might have been less, but at the time it was so intense that it felt like maybe it was a full minute or more. And we could see nothing at all. Like it sounded like this was hitting the glass, it was hitting the windshield, could see nothing. And it just stopped as quickly as it started. And then everything in the area, it went like as if it was in a dead zone, like everything went silent. There were no birds, there was no animals. It's just like, it was just silent. And it really, this experience, which I've never had an experience like that since and before, it unnerved all of us, and we left early, and we didn't return for a couple of weeks to the Ghost Road. It was just a very unnerving thing. And we had other strange things happen, but that I can honestly say it was very unnerving. We also witnessed what we believed on one occasion to be ball lightning during stormy conditions, where there was lightning overhead, and it looked like there was a ball of light that was coming down the road. And then a lightning strike actually occurred near to where our car was. And so we figured that was potentially ball lightning. We had seen, one of us had seen an apparition, and routinely we had our batteries drained, or our cameras would just stop working, even though we had checked them just before heading out. So just very weird stuff going on there. We were not always alone. Sometimes other friends joined us, other ghost hunters and locals. One thing I'll never forget is an older man stopped us in his car. He was a local, and he pulled up right in front of our gear, because we had our spotting scopes out and all this. And he said to me, "I know what you guys are trying to do, but please don't take our ghost story away." And to me, that kind of, it struck a chord with me, and it's something that's lasted with me. Please don't take our ghost story away. Don't ruin our mystery. So this is a group of us. This is me here, actually, with my flashlight in hand. These orby things up here, I'm assuming were snow. There's snow on the ground, and so I don't think there's anything special with those. We saw many attempts at hoaxes, especially in the summer months. On weekends, the road became very crowded and took on a party atmosphere. One of the most funniest things that happened was a kid came up on a bicycle and he had a flashlight and he was wearing like a long white bed sheet and he was bicycling down the road. Woohoo, you know, comes the ghostly motorcyclist. That was kind of funny. Sometimes really weird and yeah, like I'd explained to you before, really scary things happened when we were out there. Other times nothing happened at all. But the most consistent phenomena we saw was that singular white light, which crossed the field and disappeared, just like the dead motorcyclist legend described. Some of the locals had told us it was car headlights reflecting from a road 9 kilometers away. And after many trips up there, we finally managed to prove this. It was the early 2000s, so we used 3 cars to triangulate the location and lines of sight, synchronized our watches, and used walkie-talkies. And this would have been so much easier to do today with the mobile phones and apps that we have at our disposal. After we solved the mystery, so to speak, we didn't make the journey back to Scugog Island. There was a satisfaction in proving the car headlights do cause the majority of ghost light sightings, but it felt rather anticlimactic. And here you can see the lake is kind of pointed out here, Scugog Lake. There's a very tiny light there, which is the ghost light, which we were able to, through triangulation, say, okay, yeah, flash your lights from this point. Yes, we're seeing it as the ghost light here, back over here. So that was anticlimactic, but also very satisfactory, and didn't really explain everything else that was going on up there. And then 1 week later, in a different location, 2 of us had a close range UFO sighting of what appeared to be a structured craft. But that is a different story and possibly for another time. We learned a lot from our treks to the Ghost Road, and we had a lot of fun. 2 decades later and many more investigations since then, I can say without a doubt, it was the journey and all the in-between bits, time spent with friends, that had the greatest impact on me personally. One important thing I have learned is that all of these mystery light locations have a mixed bag of things that go on, from genuine anomalies to willful hoaxes, mundane things like car headlamps that may be enough to spark the imagination or the imaginal or subconscious into producing psi. And often very similar legends that not only keep these places ambiguous, but work like a beacon, attracting paranormal pilgrims to their mystery. Those lights dancing just above the treetops that originally drew us in were never resolved. And to this day, they remain a mystery to me. Before I get on to Italy, I want to draw your attention to one more location. Now, in this, I have a sound, and I don't know if the sound is going to play. I hope so. But what you're looking at here is another place in Ontario. It's called the Cheltenham Badlands. It also has a history of very strange things going on, UFOs, mystery lights. And my husband had the opportunity to go there, and he witnessed 2 strange anomalous lights. Of course, this happened after the cameras were packed and put away. But he, in his work, he also likes to do VLF, or very low frequency recordings. And at the time of having those lights appear, he was still doing that. And he did manage to get a sound. Now I'm going to try to click on this. I don't know if it's going to work or if you'll be able to hear it. I don't know. I'm going to warn you, it's a very high-pitched sound, but he is convinced it is an absolute anomaly. And no, it's not gonna work here. So maybe I can minimize this and try to play it. I'll try. It is a high-pitched sound, so if it works and you're wearing headphones, I'm warning you ahead of time. I don't know if that's going to play or not. So I hope you guys were able to hear that and it didn't hurt your ears at all.
Yes, we heard it. It's fine.
Okay. It is very strange to me because it's almost, there's a tune to it. I call it the tune, because there's seems to be something to it that's almost melodic or musical, especially if you play it in a loop. And I mean, there's a lot of things that when you're doing VLF, like, I mean, the military uses very low frequencies. There are all sorts of things that you have to take into account, everything from even a washing machine that could be a mile away could affect this. But this is really my husband's area. So if you want to learn more about very low frequencies and how he does that with it, like what he's doing with that, and his investigations, you'd have to talk to him about it. But I thought I would play that for you. So, oh, and before I move on from this, there is a house that someone has built there in a very 1960s sort of, I guess, a sci-fi new age style architecture. It really does look like a glass UFO. It is private property, and I've never been able to get by there when this person is home to try and ask them, like, what inspired you? Is this, did you see something here? Like, why this? I'd be very curious, but I thought I would mention that as part of this location's strangeness. There's the UFO house. So it occurred to me many years after our visits to the Ghost Road that what we investigators were doing could be likened to a paranormal pilgrimage, right down from our journey to wearing a specific uniform, our ghost hunting kind of apparel and our equipment, and traveling out an hour, you know, every couple of weeks to try and solve this mystery. It was our pilgrimage. And there are places in which one can sense the numinous, the presence of spiritual forces, much more easily than others. And there are many places like that here in Italy. And this area is one that I'm going to talk to you about next. You can see it's quite beautiful. Just its nature alone is enough to inspire the pilgrimage. So many centuries before our ghost road treks, possibly millennia, and on another continent, mysterious lights beckoned people to a location in central Italy. The Sibillini Mountains are part of the Apennine mountain range, and most of the peaks are over 2,000 meters or 6,600 feet. The region is very picturesque, and with ancient villages, meadows, rivers, lakes, and wildflowers, it is stunningly gorgeous. It is a landscape as magical as the legends and myths that have inspired people from around Europe to take often lengthy and perilous journeys to visit this place. You can see its location here. I'm actually up more around here. So it's really in central Italy. This is Norcia, and every spring it's just filled with wildflowers. It's very beautiful. Archaeology in the area indicates human settlements predating Rome by at least 1,000 years, and pilgrimages to this site have been occurring since medieval times. Saint Benedict, who is the patron saint of Europe and of the study of caves of all things, was born there in the town of Norcia. Approximately 25 kilometers away from Norcia, in the heart of the Sibillini Mountains, was a cave where, according to differing legends, lived a prophetess, which gave the area its name, Sibillini, after the Sibyl. Ancient soothsayers took refuge in these mountains after Christianity had driven them out of their grottos near Naples. One legend describes the seer as very beautiful women with cloven feet, who would tempt questing knights to their doom in their subterranean lairs. Other stories describe communing with fairies and witches in versions similar to the Wild Hunt, where pilgrims would journey out into the night sky in a processional with flying boats. And this idea of flying boats is very interesting to me because it's also part of Canadian Indigenous legends of flying canoes, which we sometimes like to associate with the UFO phenomena. In the 12th century, a story about the body of Pontius Pilate from the Bible became associated with the area. Legend tells that after his execution in Rome, his body was being taken over the mountains back to his home in Abruzzo. The wagon carrying his corpse tipped and tumbled down the side of the ravine, taking the driver, oxen, and Pilate's body with it, which landed at the bottom. Proof of this event apparently occurs each summer when Pilate's body turns the waters, or Pilate's blood turns the waters of the lake a rich red color, which we now know is caused by microscopic crustaceans mating in the warmer conditions. But still, it's pretty spectacular. And here's the lake here. For centuries and to this day, the lake has earned a very sinister reputation for being haunted, making this place a mecca for practitioners of the occult arts for several hundreds of years. Necromancers were drawn to the mountains, dipping, this is according to legend, dipping their books into the red waters of the lake and performing rituals. The local authorities in Norcia became alarmed at what they viewed as a profane pilgrimage and banned access, building a wall and gallows on the shore of the lake and executing trespassers and leaving their bodies to rot in order to discourage more visitors. Yeah, pretty grim. In modern times, this area has been the scene of numerous UFO reports of structured crafts, including being part of a UFO flap in the 1970s. Ghostly apparitions and strange light forms also appear here. There are many stories of witches, fairies, demons, ghosts, UFOs, and alien pilots. But the one common feature in all of the various legends is the balls of light that appear with these things. Now, here is a photo. Up here is just normal. This is, I think, a star or a planet that was taken in a long exposure, and something similar like that. This photo was taken by two people that had gone up there, and they were actually sky watching for the mysterious lights. And they had a camera set up, and they said while they were out there, they didn't see any strange lights, but they saw a fox, and this fox apparently was acting unusually friendly and had come up to them. It wasn't threatening them. It wasn't acting like sort of like scary or anything, but it was like a friendly type of a fox, which is a trickster figure. But nonetheless, they went and took a picture of the fox, and all that came out was apparently this. And they didn't understand that. And they said that they had tried to, but all they got was what looked like light reflections. There was no fox there in the images, but they swear, both of them, that they had seen what they thought was a fox. And of course, my mind immediately went to, okay, well, that's a trickster. And again, this could be anything. This is a picture that was taken by somebody. It's a composite picture here of what they saw as a structured UFO. And this is over Norcia. And they had seen, this is a person who had seen several lights, and they managed to get this, which they said doesn't necessarily look like what they saw, but they saw a UFO or a structured spaceship-like thing. So people from all over Europe, including early pagans and Christians, occultists, paranormal enthusiasts, and ufologists, have been drawn to this wild, haunted landscape. The legends have inspired authors, artists, poets, and musicians. Michelangelo gave a face and body to the Sibyl of these mountains in the frescoes of the Sistine Chapel. Composer Richard Wagner's Tannhauser came to these mountains to visit the kingdom of the Sibyl during the 14th century. And more recently, Guido Piovin, I'm probably butchering his name, I'm still only new to Italy, but in his journey to Italy, defined the Sibylline as the most mysterious mountains in Italy. And you know what, they really beckon me to, and I hope to spend some more time there, but unfortunately the mouth of the original cave was destroyed. And tragically, the area was devastated by earthquakes in 2016 and has still not fully recovered. So it's still difficult to get out there. So the next place I want to discuss with you is called the Italian Devil's Tower. This is the Pietra di Bismontova, or the Stone of Bismontova. It is a giant geological formation located in the province of Reggio Emilia. It has been a site of religious pilgrimage for thousands of years, and it continues to be so to this day. Italian UFO buffs have dubbed it the Italian Devil's Tower due to its similar appearance to the Devil's Tower in Wyoming, USA, which was made famous by the film Close Encounters of a Third Kind. And because Pietra di Bismontova is a known UFO hotspot and generally all around weird area. The Pietra was a sacred site to the mysterious Villanovan people who inhabited the area from about 900 to 700 BC, and whose culture is thought to be the earliest phase of the Etruscan civilization. This is one of their pieces of art that was found, a statuette in the area of the Pietra. And for those of you who are familiar with Dante's Divine Comedy, the Pietra was the inspiration for the description of the Purgatory Mountain, which is of interest to me, particularly because of the parallels drawn by religious scholars like Diana Pasulka between purgatory and alien contact experience. Because again, people are seeing spaceships and alien pilots and other weird things there. But the main thing that is noted at Pietra di Bismontova is strange light phenomena that occurs at the top of the mountain, and that has been photographed by various people, including my husband. And these are some of the photos from his slide collection. So in modern times, people have reported mysterious lights, UFO spaceships, and strange beings. And there is even a reportedly haunted abandoned villa that the locals call the Satanic House. Now, why they associate it with Satan worshiping is a mystery, along with why it was abandoned in the first place, although there are many abandoned places in Italy, unfortunately. But in this case, I do know that the best views of the mysterious lights that appear at the Pietra is right where this this supposed satanic house is. It is actually for sale, but it is in a very remote area. So I don't think anyone will buy it, unfortunately, unless they want to live out there with the strange goings on. So much closer to my home is Montovola. Actually, if I was a little bit lighter out, I could just open up the doors here and I could show it to you. If I took my little laptop over, you could probably see it. This is the site of a pagan temple where Etruscans would seek divination and commune with mysterious lights. Now, some modern scholars believe that these sacred lights were in fact lightning, but who knows? Mysterious lights have also been seen here. So what you're looking at here is one of the peaks of Montovola. This here is an 8th century church, and inside is a shrine to a Black Madonna, which has a whole other history behind that that's too much to get into now. But underneath there is an undercrypt with Etruscan runes as well. So pagans and early Christians fought fierce battles here, and there are relics, including ancient human remains, that are occasionally unearthed. Occasionally as well, they'll find these remains and they'll assume that they might have belonged to World War II, because where we're living is right on the Gothic line, where there was a lot of fierce fighting at the end of the Second World War and a lot of death. And but then they carbon date these things and they find out that no, these ancient skeletons with like wounds and things still on them, that they're from a much earlier time period. So there's the Sanctuary of the Blessed Black Madonna that is built over top the Etruscan temple. This is the Etruscan part. The pagan ruins can be accessed through the undercrypt of the chapel, and they're pretty cool about just letting you go down there. They're actually really nice people that run the area up there. Here's another view of the Etruscan art. I've gone down there and I've done meditation, and it's really, really energetic and interesting down there. So in 1399, there was a scene on the top of this mountain of a Marian apparition, along with a large fiery cross, which was witnessed by pilgrims on a processional from Bologna. So it was a number of people that had witnessed this Marian apparition, and there is still a cross marking the spot where it appeared, and it still stands to this day. Montovola also has a Templar oratory, and this is an inside of that can be found a little bit higher up on the mountain and is pictured above. It's really, really impressive in there. And again, it's amazing the amount of access that you can get. Now, I do go out and skywatch on occasion, and I haven't really seen too much that was unusual, but one night I saw a very, very strange light. And I've seen columns of bright white light and things, but it's always very spontaneous, and it's not like I have my camera always handy. But this one night I noticed a very large amber light that appeared, and it was just this past summer over the sanctuary of the Madonna. And I called my husband over and I said, you know, what is this? Like, I've never seen anything like this before. And he was, well, maybe they're doing something up there. You know, maybe it's a feast day or whatever, maybe something's going on. Because there are religious pilgrimages that continue to the summit to this day, as they have for millennia. And actually what happened is that I grabbed a picture of it, and I was thinking, well, it's probably just somehow associated with the church. Maybe it is a feast day. Maybe something's going on, even though I had never in 3 years seen a light in that location before. And it was so bright. I only took a picture, unfortunately, with my my mobile phone, and we ended up going up there. A couple months later, my daughter was visiting, and my son-in-law, and we went up there, and my husband questioned the lady who runs the refuge up there and maintains the church during the summer months. It's too snowy. The roads are not good enough to go up there in the winter, so they only maintain it in the summer months for pilgrims and hikers and people in the area that want to go up there. And she was shocked. And first of all, there is no light over that church, not in that location. And she was saying, absolutely not, because of pandemic, they haven't done anything up there, that they just open it up, and during the day people can come up there, and they have a little like gift shop, and they have water and things like that you can purchase up there. But she said no, and that the refuge itself has been closed because there's no way to social distance. So she had no idea, and she kept asking him questions and questions about the light. We haven't seen it since. I don't know what this is, but it certainly was mysterious. And then afterwards, when I was doing the research for this presentation, is when I found out that, yeah, there actually was a Marian apparition there in 1399 with this burning cross. So who knows? But it's very interesting. And yeah, I can literally look at this from my studio. Now, the next place I want to talk about is Lago Santo, and the Modenese Lago Santo. There's quite a few holy lakes here in Italy. So it's the Holy Lake of Modena. It's very beautiful place, also in the mountains. This beautiful natural mountain lake is located in the Modenese Apennines, and it sits at approximately 1,500 meters. There are a couple of very rustic alpine refuges there where hikers and pilgrims can rest before continuing up another 1,000 meters. There are mysterious caves and prehistoric rock drawings in the area, and over century Christians have made pilgrimages here. Legends include a siren or a witch who lures unsuspecting travelers to their doom with mysterious lights. This is also a location of the European wild man, who is a more gentrified version of the North American Bigfoot. Think of him more along the lines of Beauty and the Beast than a hairy, stinky Sasquatch. He's often seen accompanied by a lady in white and mysterious light balls. Centuries ago, a Scottish monk settled in the area and he was living in a cave. And there are stories of epic battles with demonic forces. His attempts to rid the area of demonic forces may have failed because centuries later, there are many modern reports of light phenomena and UFOs witnessed, including a retired forest ranger whose son I met with in June 2020, who told me a bit about his dad's story, which was really creepy, seeing a structured craft there over the lake. We conducted an investigation in June 2020, accompanied by our friend and experienced mountaineer, Nicola Tosi. I did an invocation ritual in order to try to engage with the spirit of the lake and the surrounding forest, and was rewarded by seeing the light phenomena the next night. It was very interesting. It was June, so at first, when I first saw it, I thought maybe I'm seeing fireflies, but the lights were bigger. They were bigger and flashing, and I'm used to fireflies now because we have them in our backyard in our home. And it wasn't that, and they were accompanied by something that looked very large and shadowy. And this is a very, this is an area that's rather remote. And where I was seeing these things, it would be really impossible if it had been someone with a flashlight out there in the dark that was doing these things over hours. I really just can't see that being. So I'm pretty sure I saw whatever it was that's supposedly luring people to their doom in the lake. So when we were set up, we had tested out the cameras. I had my flashlight going. I wanted to try and do an attempt with my flashlight to try and signal to see if I can get them to signal back. And a very strange thing happened. My flashlight literally fell apart in my hand. It fell apart, like it just started falling apart in pieces. I can't even really describe it other than it just seemingly fell apart in my hands. I put it in my pocket, and later that night in the refuge, when I pulled the flashlight out to show my husband, it was literally as if it had been reassembled. And I just can't explain that. I don't know. It's still mind-boggling to me. Camera, of course, we had set it up. We had done test shots. And when it was time to actually try and take photos of these strange lights, a camera malfunctioned completely, which seems to be a classic with these types of locations. So we're definitely hoping to revisit this area again and spend more time there. Again, it's really beautiful. And even just to go there and be out in nature is just so wonderful. So a pilgrimage is a journey. It's often into an unknown or foreign place where a person goes in search of new or expanded meaning about their self, others, nature, or a higher good through the experience. They're not always for religious purposes or to involve prayers. They can be for fun, like we did up at the Ghost Road. They challenge us, inspire us in ways, and inspiring us in the way my travels to places of mystery lights have. There are places in which one can sense the numinous, the presence of spiritual forces more easily than others. And in my experience, these places are often characterized by the appearance of mysterious light forms. We are drawn to these places because we want to seek out and perhaps solve a mystery. And for many of us, just doing that, we are irrevocably changed. The last set of lights here I'm going to show you are from Hessdalen, Norway. I'm sure many of you are familiar with them. In fact, my husband in 1995 met Hilary Evans, who I believe was one of the founding members of ASSAP. I think so. Hilary Evans, yeah. He met him in Hessdalen. And these are some of the Hessdalen lights that are taken up there. So Hessdalen is very well known for its anomalous lights and UFO experiencers and the paranormal. In the early 1980s, an electronic technician named Leif Havoc, who's pictured here, journeyed alone up into the mountains, and he stayed there for 40 days in an alpine refuge where he recorded the mysterious light forms. And of course, I find the 40 days going up and being alone in a refuge, just even saying that he was there for that time frame is very interesting to me and my thoughts on pilgrimage. And he later wrote a book about his experiences in Norwegian, detailing his adventures. And it's too bad there isn't an English version, but here he is back in the 1980s with his telescope. So what I find interesting about Leif is how this experience transformed him. After his experiences with the mystery lights, he began working with ancient healing energies, shamanic drumming, and giving courses on self-development through meditation. The mysterious light forms reoriented the flow of his life, and it changed him. So I guess I'm going to conclude here by asking you guys, have you gone on a paranormal pilgrimage? And if so, how has that journey transformed you? If you are interested in these the subjects that I've talked about tonight, I do recommend a couple of books. First of all, some shameless self-promotion. Cosmic Witch is my book, and I talk about how, in part, initiatory experiences that I had with strange light forms and strange little beings. If you're really interested in earth lights or these types of mystery lights, highly recommend Paul Devereaux. Earth Lights Revelation is one of my favorites, along with Spirit Roads, talking about pilgrimage. And then, of course, there's Mark Fox's work called Light Forms that I highly recommend if you're interested in how light forms are experienced in different settings and how they have a transformative effect with different people. So anyways, guys, I am really sorry that the slideshow didn't seem to work. But I hope you still enjoyed the talk and got something from it. And, you know, any questions you might have, I'm happy to answer. So that's it.
Right. Thank you very much indeed. That was excellent. Thank you. So let's start by going back to the beginning, and
Okay.
let's stop sharing screen so we can see you again.
Okay. Where do I go for that? Ooh, I'll go back to Zoom.
Screen at the bottom, the little green button. Press it again. It should say stop sharing.
Stop videos, participants, chat, new share, stop share.
Oh, hang on. There we go. That's it. Right. Good evening, everybody. Thank you.
I'm sorry about that because the slideshow looked really cool and I don't know.
So what I need to ask you firstly is the book in Norwegian. What was the title?